What's up, guys? Adapark here, and today we're going to do a little bit of rambling. So, I had fully planned to put out my next video in the series on what's the difference between a mediocre player and a great player, and specifically, we were going to look at tanks. However, to sum it up, some shit went down tonight, and it's something that I really want to, like I said, ramble on for a minute. This is very quickly prepared as far as my notes go, so bear with me and cut me a little bit of slack because it is going to be a little bit rambly. Hopefully I will sum it up with some point, but if not, I do apologize. I want to get this out there, get my thoughts out there, as it has just happened fairly recently, about an hour ago. So, for those of you that are new to this channel or maybe have just started to follow me, my guild is a heroic / mythic raiding guild. We were very late to the game in heroic and mythic, specifically mythic Hellfire Citadel. However, we decided when Legion comes out, we're going to kind of change that around. We really want to push forward. We really want to make a big sweeping change in the guild, and we want to kill heroic and more specifically mythic bosses. So Tuesday, the raids open up, and I'm super excited about it. Everybody's excited. We jump in there in heroic, immediately in heroic, and we get smashed. You know, it's not something that I'm proud to say. It's not something that I'm happy to say. It's truthfully, it's very embarrassing for me to admit that, you know, especially to the whole internet, if you will, on YouTube, is we sucked. We got our asses kicked over and over and over and over and over again. And there were a lot of reasons for that. First and foremost, the composition of raiders that we had was quite subpar. We had too many healers. We had somewhere in the neighborhood of 20, let's say 21 to 22 players in the raid. Now, obviously with Flex, you know, you're looking at anywhere between 10 and 30. We had like 22. And of those 22, like 7 of them were healers. And we had a ton, and when I say a ton, like 9-ish melee. Maybe a little bit less than that. Let's, 8, 7, 8, something like that. But we had, the composition was just piss poor. We had a lot of people that weren't ready for raiding. Meaning that, yeah, they were level 110 and they had an artifact weapon. Congratulations. They didn't have many traits unlocked. They didn't have the gear. They were rocking the very basic gear. 810, 820, 830. And while you could probably get away with 830 gear in a very organized raid, when you have people pulling in, 810, 820, 830, low end, it's not going to work. We had people that simply did not understand the fight. People that did not understand the first fight in the raid. We had, and this has always been a problem, we had people that showed up expecting to be carried, expecting to show up and gear will be handed to them. This was a problem in Hellfire Citadel for my guild, and again, this whole video is not something that I want to talk about, but it's something I need to get out there. It's something I need to talk to you guys about. I need to share my thoughts and my feelings. But this was a problem that we had during Hellfire Citadel. Like I said, we got into the Mythic game very late. Part of that was my fault for kind of, not taking that step because the roster wasn't there. There's just many factors. So we sat down Tuesday night. When I say we, me and my second in command. And we said, okay, here are the issues that we have. And we both agreed that one of the big issues that we have is we don't have enough eyeballs on the raid. So I looked through our roster, and I had been leaning towards doing this, but I promoted one of my raiders to this circle, this leadership position where he will be my second officer. The guild has always ran with 2 officers and myself. I think 3 is a good number. Kind of, if 2 people agree with something, okay, it's a pretty good idea. But promoted this guy, and we sat down for a good while, like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we said, okay, what do we want to do with the guild? And we all 3 agreed, our original idea with this guild when I took over years and years and years ago was that we were going to push mythic content. We were going to push hard content. We were going to push high-level heroic content. And we were going to do that. And that meant that the raiders that we're pulling in that aren't gearing themselves, that aren't researching the fight, that are expecting to be carried, that are standing in shit, that are not performing, they will be dealt with. And by dealt with, I mean they'll be sat or they'll be dropped completely. And tonight, I stepped into the raid and I had high expectations and high hopes. And we got our asses kicked. I dropped several DPS and a couple of healers, and we were in maybe 17, 18 players, and we still got our asses kicked. And again, it's super embarrassing to say, and I don't want to say it, but it needs to be said. So what did we do? We sat some guys. We sat some of the guys, to get down to that like 17 raider level. Guys that are pulling like 30, 40K on the first boss in Emerald Dream. I sat at the behest of one of the officers. I sat a DPSer for standing in the rot, simply standing there, not standing in the right position. He was, just not following what he was told to do. I sat healers for underperforming. It was a wake up call for, I think, hopefully a lot of the raiders. So what happened? Well, the guy that was sat at the behest of one of my officers left the guild. He went on a tirade and whispers to me that I was the worst player imaginable, that I'm a horrible guild leader, that every role that I've ever been in, that I've been piss poor at it, even though there is video footage on the YouTube channel of me in raids doing, at least in my opinion, outstanding numbers as far as healing goes. And he went on this tirade, and his brother, who was also a raider, left with him. And it sucks because this guy was decent DPS. He was above average as far as DPS goes. But he was also a problem child. He was one of those guys, and I've mentioned this before, and I'll probably say it again. There's nothing that infuriates me more as a raid leader than while I'm talking, or I'm explaining a fight, or a player asks me a question, or asks a very obvious, hey, how does this mechanic work question, you start explaining the fight when I'm the raid leader. That pisses me off to no end. And this guy would do that for every single question. Even if I'm talking, he would queue up that vent button and he would start yapping. He was one that I had mentioned in the BOE episode, the BOE world drop video. He was one of the guys that had a world drop, and instead of working with the guild and whatnot, he sold it. And, he said, oh, well, I'm going to put money in the guild bank and I'm going to buy things. And, of course, he never did. He had an attitude. He stood in shit. He was just all around an ass. And while his DPS was decent, it wasn't amazing. It wasn't worth the trouble of the rest of the bullshit. And to be completely and totally sexist here, and I mean that in hopefully a humorous way as I'm trying to convey my thoughts here in Ramble. There is a thought in a guy's mind, and maybe ladies have this too for their sexual orientation with men. But there is a ratio of hotness to bitch when it comes to women. And a lot of men, I would say, if you are a woman, maybe ask your boyfriend or, your brother, a guy friend or something, is this true? And I think they'll agree that a guy would much rather have someone who the pitch level, and like I said, guys, this is rambling, is mediocre, and their hotness be mediocre in the long run, than someone who is super hot but also super bitchy, super annoying, super whatever. That perfect balance. And that was the case with this guy. Was his DPS was good, but the rest of the problems and the baggage and the issues and the problems that he caused were not and are not worth it. So it's unfortunate, but it happens. His brother, who played a mage, was incredibly bad. And that's not to be derogatory or hurtful or harmful or to talk shit or trash or anything like that. The numbers don't lie. He's just a really bad player. Student shit, DPS was low, not a good player. The second person that we sat that got really pissed off was one of my healers. And she went on a tirade about how, she needs the gear and how could we not bring her in, and that this is bullshit because it's just normal, etc., etc. The problem with this one is she's an amazing healer. She is. She's a really valued member of the guild. She's a good raider. She's a good friend of mine. The problem, though, is she just started gearing her character, or leveling and gearing her character, a week ago. So while the rest of us are trying to run Mythics and Mythic Plus this week, and we're trying to craft gear and buy shit and whatnot, she was still leveling her character. So while we have 5 healers in the 17-man group that are working their asses off, she expected to be given gear or to be brought along simply because. And that's the type of mentality that if we want to survive, and we as my guild want to clear mythic content, or at least heroic content, before the next raid's out, hopefully in about 5 to 5.5 months, we can't stand for that crap, and it's not going to work. So what's the future hold? The future is that I will continue to push players. That means that if your numbers are low, if that means that you are doing subpar whatever, you're going to get sacked. It's not that I'm trying to be an asshole. It's not that, and that's something that as a raider, I hope people will realize, is it's not that I'm trying to be mean. It's not that I'm trying to be a jerk. I don't get my jollies off sitting people. I hate it because I've been sat before. I get where you're coming from, because you as a raider, I've been there. I've gotten yelled at. I've gotten pulled aside and been called every name in the book and told your healing is shit and your DPS is shit and whatever. And it feels like crap. I get it. I know how it feels to be sat. But at the same time, I need to push people, and I need to push my players to make sure that they are improving and that they are getting honest feedback. That's my job, is to improve the raid, among many other things. And that means that I need to be upfront and honest with the players and go, look, your numbers are crap. We can't take you along. We literally cannot, carry you right now. And people are probably going to leave. And truth be told, and I hate to admit it, we're probably going to lose a couple more players. And it's going to suck. I've done this, I said in the recruitment video. I hate when my players leave. These guys are my family. I love every single player that raids with me. And it's going to suck to lose them. But the deal is this. We want to do heroic content. We want to do mythic content. We either live and push, or we die as a guild. But a worse fate than death is letting us get stuck in the same spot that we were in Hellfire Citadel, where truthfully nobody cared, and we were chugging along at the slowest pace possible, and we weren't making progress, and we screwed up a lot of chances to really improve. And it really comes down to, I guess, a question that was asked during this meeting by one of the officers. He said, look, we keep talking about DPS, we keep talking about improving the raid, we keep talking about making sure that these guys are doing what they need to do. Am I expected as a raider to show up with the best enchants possible. Meaning, on my server, do I need to spend several thousand upon thousands of gold buying the best flask and the best potions and the best enchants for your rings and all this stuff? Or is it okay to get the cheaper enchants, use some of the older flasks, and wait for the prices to significantly drop? And yes, it sucks. Flasks are 2,000 gold a pop right now, and it sucks. On the cheap end on my server, the brand new flasks are 2,000 gold. Potions themselves are like 900 gold right now per potion. Per potion, they cost more than a fucking flask in the long run. Enchants are stupid expensive. 10,000 gold. Whatever. Gems are ridiculous. 10,000 gold. It'll go down in time. But when he asked this, my response is, and it will be, the choice is yours. And that will be, and has been, what I've presented to the raid is the choice is yours. You can get the cheap enchants, you can get the cheap gems, you can get the cheap flasks. Use Warlords of Draenor flasks and Warlords of Draenor potions. But when we can't kill things, and you're not pulling the DPS and you expect gear, it's not going to fly. And that's the difference in mentality. It sucks to burn through, 100,000 gold for a week's worth of raiding. It sucks. Especially when I bought the good ring enchants and I just got a brand new ring. So, should you buy the best stuff? How serious are you about progression? How serious are you about pushing other people? As an officer, as a leader, are you serious about pushing your employees, your raiders, those that you were put in charge of, those that you're supposed to take charge of, those that are looking at you and trust you and are expecting you to be the one that they can look to? Which one is it? Do you get the good stuff and suffer, but it's worth it? Or do you get the cheap stuff and show the rest of your raid that it's okay to be mediocre? So with that being said, guys, pouring my heart out here. Hopefully you guys like what I'm saying. If you do, if you have any insight, give this video a like, hit that thumbs up, hit that sub button. Both those things encourage me to ramble on like this, maybe a little bit more. If you have anything to say in the comment section below, I'd welcome the feedback. It's been a shitty week for raiding for my guild. It's been rough. It's definitely been an adjustment, but I'm ready for more raids. So until next time, guys, as I lean back in my chair and hope that it doesn't break, I'll see ya.